OPI data collection person, and she has graciously agreed to meeting with us today as we try to help everybody get off the ground with the school year and get things going. But let me first introduce myself. I'm John Gorton. I'm with the Special Ed Division at OPI. I am the School Improvement Unit Manager, which oversees the monitoring process of the special ed programs across the state. Many of my team are on this call today. Desiree, Jillian, Crystal. I'm not sure if Mercy's on here or not, or Alicia, but that is my team, and so we try to monitor all the school districts. So I've been with OPI for 4 years now, 30 years in the public school setting, as a school administrator, teacher, and special ed director. So trying to share that joy with everybody and spread that around as best we're able to is our goal. So I will be quiet and try to answer questions that pop up in the chat as Christy's doing her giving her portion of the presentation. Go ahead, Christy.
All right. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Christy Sears. I am the IDA data manager. So I handle all your data needs in special education. We hope to have the position filled, formerly Shara, if you worked with her before, if you're not new, that handles all of your Infinite Campus support. So I'm going to wing it today, and hopefully I am, let's see, does it say I am sharing? Where'd it go? I said I wasn't, nope. I said I wasn't going to make this awkward, and I did. Okay, so there we go. We should have my screen up. Let me get the chat going.
It's showing great, Christy. Thank you. And I've spotlighted you, but I don't need to spotlight you if you don't want to be, but I was able to get a recording set up as well.
Oh, delightful. Okay, thank you. Okay, I've got the chat up, so I will try to keep an eye on that. If something comes in, Tammy or John, will you please interrupt me at any point, because this training is for you and the information is for you. So at any point, please don't hesitate to let me know if there's something I can clarify as we go along. I am going to be talking today about Infinite Campus. I'm just going to give you an overhead perspective on some of the pieces that you may encounter. Maybe in the last few months when you've been away for summer, you've forgotten some things, but we'll just go through and do a little refresher. And at the end, I'll leave an opportunity for questions. So unless something comes up during, we'll go along. All right, so Infinite Campus Special Education. And today's agenda, we're going to cover Infinite Campus as a whole. I'm just going to give you a little FYI on what Infinite Campus is and how it relates to you. We're going to talk about the enrollment area. We're going to talk about records transfers, households. I'm going to provide a demonstration on how to build a household. If that's something that everybody feels pretty confident about, though, please tell me in the chat that, no, I'm an expert, I don't need that, and I will skip that section. So I'm going to go over the caseload dashboard and caseload summary report, just give you a little overview of that, and then talk about the state reported data, because that's my baby and we're talking data. So those are the pieces that I'm interested in maintaining with you. So I'll explain why those are important. All right, so Infinite Campus, if you're not familiar, is the statewide school information system. So it's an SIS, and each district has its own unique URL. We at the OPI we don't own your data, that's all yours. So each district is responsible for managing the users and what rights they have in there. And you at the district control what your teachers and administration and paras and whomever you decide to put in there. It's all up to you. So that system is yours, that data is yours. We just get it reported up to us at the state. So we have a state level viewing, and all that we're looking at is the information that is reported federally. So we are not capturing everything you put in Infinite Campus. We're just gathering information that is federally reported. I hope everybody is familiar with enrollments. wanted to talk a little bit about the different enrollment types. I think these apply to most of the people in the room. The P is for student that's the primary education there. So that's most of your students are going to have a P enrollment type, and these are really important, especially when it comes to how it gets reported back to us, because we are, oh, I'm sorry, something popped. It's important to make sure that you understand what each of these areas are for. So I was asked to cover the enrollment section and talk about the primary enrollment for P. The secondary enrollment is just it's a student, they're just receiving some educational services at your school. And then the N is just for students that are getting special ed service type. So those are the three types of enrollments that you'll encounter. One key talking point is homeschool students are considered private school students. So just keep that in mind as you're doing your enrollments. Okay, the big area that you probably are encountering right now is records transfer. And let's see, how can I do this? Well, I know everybody's on a phone. I was trying to think, like, is there anybody in here that has never done a records transfer before? I'm looking at the chat. Here, never done one. Okay, fantastic. Okay. That is a good thing. You have not either. Okay, so is it just not part of your job, or is there or you're new to your role? I should ask it that way, sorry. Not part of your job. Okay, not part of your job. Okay. So it sounds like most people, okay, so new to the role. Okay, so I'll show you a little bit about records transfer. Every school is different, so I don't always know how to approach Infinite Campus. Every school determines what roles. Some people have clerks doing records transfers. Some schools have their special education staff doing their records transfers. Some schools have secretaries. Some school, the admin does it all. So, each school is different in how they handle that. So I'm not surprised that we've got a variety of answers. One of the most important things with records transfer to understand is, and I'll probably say this a few times today, is to ensure that you are locking documents within your documents for special education, because only locked documents are going to transfer to the next school. So one, locked documents are super important because they indicate that you are finished with what you are working on. That IEP is complete. That ER is complete. The documents in front of you are complete and finalized. So locking a document is important first and foremost for that reason, but it is also important because it is the only documents that are able to transfer when a student moves to a new school. So that next school is not going to be able to get a copy of that IEP or the ER if the document's locked. So it's super important that all documents that you ensure that once you are finished working on your IEP or ER, that you lock the document. You're not going to, it's the best thing to do for yourself. And also when you go in and look at all of your files, you know that it's done. You know that you don't have anything left to do. So it's a great visual aid when you're looking at documents. But what I've got on the screen right here is a little snip of what it looks like. Block everything, even progress reports. Yes. Oh, there you are. Okay. Even progress reports. Yes. Lock it all. It's a great way for you to know that the work is done. So it helps a lot of people if you just get in the habit early. So start your school year off on the right start and make sure that you are locking as soon as you finish, especially with all those beginning of year IEPs, ERs, and everything that you're working on. Okay, not my question. Okay, so this is what the records transfer screen looks like when you're pulling in your documents. So in order to get those, you want to make sure, and I've highlighted some of the more important pieces that you're looking for. So the enrollment history, and one of the reasons you want to bring that enrollment history over is because it allows you to see the full history of the student and where they've been enrolled. And it allows you to pass that forward too. So if you break the chain by not importing the enrollment, pardon me, enrollment history, then future schools will not be able to see where that student is. And we use Infinite Campus as our source of information for where our student's been and what's going on with our student. So by not doing that, you're not able to look at your student as a whole, especially those students that unfortunately maybe hop schools a lot. And maybe that might matter to you in how you're approaching a particular situation with a student, is to understand that they have been in a lot of schools. The IEP import wizard is going to allow you to import the IEP, and it should come over. If it's been locked, it will come over, and I'll show you, I believe, on the next screen, some of the key features that you're going to check on that. And then there's your evaluation report and your special education documents. Those are all super important pieces that you want to bring over. Some of the other schools may use some of the other hyperlinks that you see here, but these are the pieces that we really want you to be aware of. So on this screen, it does highlight where you are importing those documents, because when you can import the document, even though it's locked on one side, if you import that document and you don't import it as locked, it's going to come through as unlocked. And what does that mean? Oh no, now you have an unlocked IEP, and Desiree for sure is going to be right after you and wanting to know why you have an unlocked IEP. Why is this not complete? And you may miss that if you don't lock the IEP when you import it. So even if you're not the person who does the transfer of documents, these are important takeaways to take to the person in your school or district that does do the records transfer. Maybe just a little note of, hey, I learned this yesterday, thought that you might want to just have a reminder that we always check that locked box on the IEP so that we bring it over there. And if you ever have problems with your records transfer, right now it's me. I'm your Infinite Campus help until I can get someone. Okay, so these are the folders that we were talking about. And they come through, so you can see up here, let's see, nope, wrong screen, you couldn't see what else. You can see where they're locked right here. This indicates these are locked plans. And I just want to explain a little bit about the document list. If you're newer in the role and you don't know what you're if you don't know what happens when you see this, because one of the most common questions I get is, why do I have a folder with calendar not found? Well, that's associated with when the student does not have an active enrollment associated right there. So if you put in, and it will even happen to you in the middle of the summer, if you are working, God, if you're working in the middle of the summer on an IEP and the student's enrollment has not already been entered in the system by your district, then it'll populate in the calendar not found until the enrollment becomes active. So just so that you know that they have to have an active enrollment in order for that to be there. So if you see calendar not found, the documents will populate in there only because there is not an enrollment associated with those years. So uploaded forms. So some of the documents, older IEPs and older evals, they're going to come into this document folder right here, and they're going to come in as PDFs. So not everything is going to come in as one of those interactive versions of the ER or the IEP that you see in the module. They'll come in as PDFs, so you still have the information, you just won't be able to unlock them and edit them or revise them. Okay, households. So let's see. Maybe I can do a show of hands. I don't know if it'll show or not. Let's try it. By a show of hands, who wants me to demo building a household? Because I don't know if that is helpful to you guys or not, because it's a long process and I don't want to bore you to tears. I think I can see hands. Can I see hands? Can anybody else see hands? Can anyone see hands? No hands?
I think for the sake of the fact that people may not know, and that there might be a teacher here who doesn't have anybody else to rely upon for building households, it would probably be best if we went ahead and did so, Christy.
Oh, I got a hand in the chat. Okay, yay. Okay, so there we go. I want to spend as much on the good stuff. So I'm going to throw in, let's see here. I'm going to throw in the chat. So I hope everyone is able to access the chat. Oh, no. Hang on, my PowerPoint's being naughty. No. Hang on. Just give me just a moment here. I'm arguing with the technology on my side of the screen. Okay, I'm going to post some links in here, and I'm going to go over building a household. I'm going to do it from step 1 all the way through. But what I've put in the chat are some powerful links and videos and tutorials that you can use. So after this is over and you forgot it, or if you just have more questions, or if something different comes up, some of these links will be really helpful to you later on. So I do encourage you to save those. And I'll give you another place you can gather that information too. So let me go get my test site up. And when I say test site, maybe people don't know what this means. It means that none of the information you see is true student data, okay? So I'm going to enlarge it for our afternoon eyes. So nothing will be compromised because all of this is scrambled data. So everyone is able to view this, okay? And if anyone has any trouble viewing it, just make a comment in the chat and I'll enlarge or refocus where needed, okay? Okay, so if we are building a household, can everyone see Infinite Campus with an orange bar on the top? Or can anyone not see? Okay, Tammy, I should just ask one person. Stop asking the group, Christy. Thank you. Okay, so first and foremost, if you're going to build a household, you want to make sure that the student is actually enrolled. So this year, and let me say that real quick. Okay. I'll say that real quick. A little disclaimer is this year, only the new look, so this look right here of Infinite Campus is available to you. The old look has been retired. You can no longer use the old look. If you were cheating last year and you kept toggling between, you're done. You can no longer go back and forth. This is the only look you can work in. So all of our documentation will be uploaded to reflect just these directions, okay? Okay, so let's make sure our kiddo is enrolled before we get started. So we're going to go up here to this little magnifying glass. We're going to change our type to student. And I've already pre-selected a kiddo. And we're gonna take a look at Isaac and Abeda. I chose one whose name I wasn't sure about. Beta, for the sake of today, his name is Isaac Abeda. And we want to make sure that he's enrolled. Well, look at there's Isaac. We're going to pop up to the student information, or we can actually, you can do it 2 ways. So you can click on student information up here, and I'll do that in a moment. Or you can click on this related tools. If you didn't notice, it was collapsed right there. If you click on that, you can see all those related pieces that might be necessary, might be what you're looking for. It's kind of an Infinite Campus built in. So we're going to pop over to enrollments. And we see, yep, Isaac is enrolled in OPI Elementary School. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so Isaac's enrolled and we need to build his household because he needs to have his family members associated with it for when you're building your IEP so that that information will populate. So we're going to head on over to our little hamburger up here. That's these 3 bars at the top. We're going to go to census. And it's, why is it in? I think it's because it's too big. Hang on. Yeah, it was too big. I did not like that. Okay, so I hope this is okay because I like the little pop out. We're going to click on census, and census is going to bring a couple of different options to us. Based on your user rights and availability, the screen may look a little different to you. But what you should have access to if you have permission to build a household, and if you don't, then speak to your school administrator, not necessarily your principal, I mean the administrator for Infinite Campus. So, okay, we're going to click on add a person. Because what we're going to do is we're going to add Isaac's mom and dad. So, Beta. And we're just for the sake of clarity, we're going to call him Dad. We're going to search, and Dad's not in here because Dad was never a student or a parent here before. So it's not unexpected to not find him. So don't be alarmed if you see no person match. It's probably what you're going to find, honestly, unless you're adding to a household that was already there, or if the parents, maybe a lot of reasons why the parent could be there. more than likely you're going to see no person matches. So over here on the far right, they like to hide it to the right, Infinite Campus, we're going to create new person. And it's going to default to the search information that you put in here. So if, like me, you decided that you wanted to type this in lowercase, and this is going to be the time that you're going to change it to the uppercase so that you have your formatting correct. So just be careful of that. You will have to select the gender here. You did not have to select the gender before. So the only 3 fields that are required here are first and last name and gender. Once you have that information in there, down in the far right again, and it's super small. So if you can't see it either, just hang on it, wiggle in the mouse. There it is, and save. And we're going to click save. And so now we've added dad. We're going to go over here to the right and we're going to click add another person. It's going to take us back to that same window we saw before when we were doing add a person. We're going to type in a band. And this time we're going to capitalize it because we don't want to do it on the next screen. So we're going to type appropriately. And we're going to click search, no person match found, and we're going to create a new person. Now notice again, it puts in exactly what we searched for. So mom is female, 3 fields that are required. Then we're going to go to the lower right corner and click save. Now we have mom and dad both created. So now we need to add their address into the system before we go and build the whole household. So we're going to go back to census and we're going to click add address. And we're going to do a search for the address. Because first and foremost, you want to search for anything before you start adding away because it may actually exist in the system already. Okay. So we're going to do a search. This address is not here. So we're going to click new address. Same thing happens. Only the information that you typed in your search is going to populate in this address creation area. All right, so we're going to fill in our Helena. Sorry, I tested myself out earlier, so it's populating. So be careful of that though, because if you use Google or Edge or Chrome and that autofill can be the death of you when you're trying to populate student information. I would recommend turning it off if you are a person that is entering student information, because you could accidentally autofill student information with somebody else's information and not even realize it, because that autofill, it'll get you into trouble. So I would recommend either just picking a browser that you do all your Infinite Campus stuff in and not allowing the autofill, or however you want to manage that. It's just be very, very cautious. Sorry about that. All right. So we've got the address in here. That's all that's really necessary. You don't have to go crazy with how much you put in. You just want to make sure that the mail can get delivered, okay? And we're going to click save. Now, notice that was kind of scrunched up before. It will show you the full bit of information here, so you can verify now in a larger view, so you have an opportunity. Okay. So now we are going to assemble our household. We have our mom, our dad, and our student, and we have built our address. Those are the pieces that are required. Well, not mom and dad, just guardianship. We need a guardian, a single guardian at least. So student, guardian, and address. Those are our 3 things that are required in order to build our household. So let's go take a look. And we're going to go back to census. And on the far right, we're going to see over there, we see household. And we're going to go to census wizard. And we're going to type in. Now I'm going to show you. So you can do this one of 2 ways. Is you can go ahead and type in the last name. You can go ahead and type in the address and type search. And what it'll do is it'll pull up, if you do it that way, it's going to narrow the scope, so you're not going to get too much information. If you had just typed, let me show you what will happen. Because these are just little steps that can make your life a little easier when you're building a household. So by adding more information, I eliminated some of these other fields that populated that can congest your screen, especially if you have a smaller monitor, because what you're really looking for is this information that is down below. So by adding in the address and doing the search, I'm no longer looking at all of that other piece that was there. I'm sorry, put that in again and search. Okay, so we are looking, and you're going to look for this beautiful header right here that says people not in household. That's the key to building the household. It's all of the information that follows down there. Same with address not in household. So we're going to build our household. We have Mr. Isaac. Oh, lovely. We had two. This is test site, so some little weird anomalies can happen that way. So we're going to build Isaac, and we're going to build Dad. We're going to build Mom, and then we're going to add our address. So now, again, we have our three things populated in here, the necessary fields. So on the instructions that are linked in the chat, it does identify it as continue to step 2. And what I want you to notice is they do even tell you it says step 2. So we're going to go to clear, continue to step 2. Now you have the option to name your household if you want to. Maybe if you have multiple households, if a student belongs to multiple households, one primary and a couple secondaries, and you want to distinguish, or if you just want to change the name, you can override. Otherwise, it's just going to default to the last name. Okay. If you have the phone number, this is where you're going to enter that information. Now, denoting the private here and here, this only indicates for the schools that this information is private and should not be shared out. It has no other action within the system, so it's not going to be obscured from view. It's just something that will pop up for the school staff. When you're in there and then you're looking at that, they'll be aware that it's private, okay? So here's our address. We're going to put today as our start date. So we click on the little calendar icon and we click on today. And we're going to set this as our mailing address. It's super important that we set this as our mailing address because when if the school utilizes those ad hocs or any of those features built within Infinite Campus that generates letters, then this will tie with it. It will also be for your IEP showing your mailing address and your physical address. You want to go ahead and check that. We're going to put a start date again for each of the parents. The quickest way to do that when you're in here, if it is today, is just to click today, or maybe it's quicker for you to do that. Preference. You have choices. Choices are wonderful. So we're going to click save and continue, and it's going to carry us to step 3. Okay, this is the trickiest part when building a household. This is where people often get a little confused because it talks here, and now you can make it a little bigger. There we go. So relationship, like which one do I pick? The one that you want is the relationship to the student. That's the one you're looking for. So this is dad, this is mom, so this is the student. So watch what happens. So dad is the father, populates above. Mom is the mother, populates below. So that's the key. If you only work on the one that is the student, it will populate the other information in the correct field. So you don't have to worry about doing it incorrectly. And then you're going to check the guardian box. Again, notice it checked guardian above and guardian below. If I uncheck, it's gone. And same rule applies if you check the private, it's just an earmark that says, hey, this is private information. Don't share it out, okay? This is the last step, so we're going to click save and done. It just flashes. I hope everybody saw that because I can't recreate the flash. That's all that it does. And then it just leaves you on the screen. It doesn't give you any celebratory, motions to let you know you finally created your first household. It's just save and sit here. So we're going to go take a look at our student. And let's verify that we have our household attached to him. So we're going to click on Isaac. The 2 Isaacs. Let's hope I picked the right one. Related tools. Let's see if it's in here. May or may not be. It is not. So we're going to go straight back to student information. So now let's explore. This will give you all the information, the options of where you can explore for a student when it comes to their student information. But it is alphabetical. by header. So if you think special ed, just go ahead and start scrolling on down there. And we're gonna go, oh no, it's not down. Well, gosh, I'm having a moment. You know, it's been a long day, kids. Where are my households? So let's just do a household search. And there he is. When in doubt, the search bar is your best friend. So see, I had a moment, can't remember where I was supposed to go. And I can quickly get around that by using household. I knew that I was looking for a household. Tools is a great option. They'll usually help you find whatever you need in here. You'll notice now we have familiar little icons. So we have our address, we have a G for guardian, mom and dad, and then we have a little student icon for our student right here. And the student is built in here. And notice that the name is the last name. That is the default. So if you needed to change that, let's go over to household information. So if for some reason you needed to change it, you would do so here. It'll refresh in a moment. So that is how you build a household. And I'm going to pause for a moment. Are there any questions about that, or does that feel pretty easy, pretty familiar? Like, you got this. You're not going to be calling me or any of the monitors on the phone about how to build a household. Okay.
Christy,
Christy,
does that, oh, go ahead, Tammy.
yeah, I was gonna say it looked like it was under census, maybe on that like where when it's sorted, it looked like it's categorized under census, but I don't know if that on that other page, but
Christy, does the case manager or whoever does this for each individual school, typically it's an administrative assistant who completes that. That needs to be done for every student with an IEP or identified under IDEA, correct? Okay.
Yeah, you do. And you want the household because when you're populating those forms, they're built to automatically populate guardian information, and the household is tied in with that. So that's how the best and most efficient way. Some schools utilize households for everything. So some of you may be pros on it. I didn't realize it until I was talking to a few this summer that they build households for all their students. It's just easier to keep everybody together that way. But different strokes, different folks. And yes, Tammy, you were correct. Membership and household. See, there you go. Thank you.
and on the right there's a whole bunch of household stuff too.
Okay, I'll just kind of move along. I'll give you some of the little notes that I had here on my PowerPoint, and then we'll move on. Students can live, first note, student must be enrolled. So we did that together. Students may live in one or more households. You just designate them as primary households. Oops, where did my PowerPoint go? I buried it. Hang on. There it is. All right. Family units is associated with one address. You can have multiple addresses associated with the household. And the setup, again, well, these are funny notes. People and the address. So guardian, student, and the address. Those are the three things necessary for it. It ties into team members and meeting participants too. So that's another reason for building a household. And it ties in, oh, that's what I was talking about, ad hoc filters. If you're familiar with ad hocs or mailing labels that you generate, or just any mailings that go out, if your district school utilizes that, then that is another reason you're going to be building a household. Okay. And well, that's a fun slide that I didn't mean to leave. Sorry about that, guys. All right, caseload dashboard. So if you, let me find my test site here again. And pull it up here. Sorry, I buried it on myself. Let's do this. What we'll talk about. The caseload dashboard, if you are you're the case manager, the caseload dashboard is going to be something that's pretty handy to you. And when you get into it, I'm going to bring over the live version so you're not just looking at a static. So we're looking at the same kiddo that we've been playing with. And I pulled up the caseload. So I did a search, and so under student information, special education caseload, it'll show your caseload. And the really neat thing, if you're not already utilizing this tool, and let me show you here too. If you, oh, stop it. I'm just not having the day of my, there we go. I'm not having my best me. So you can hide that so you can see more of the screen if you wanted to. See how I did that painfully? Sorry. You just click this button. It was because I had something else open. So you just click this and it'll collapse it and open it. So now you can see your full caseload. The one thing about using this that if you're not already using it on a regular basis is it allows you to see the progress of all of the students in your caseload. It tells you where your IEPs are, the plans, and it lets you know how old your student is, the name. It lets you know if your documents are locked. Remember we talked about that? Locked, unlocked, good, bad. You can sort too. So if you're one of those souls who blessedly serves many, many students, then you have the option of, doing a quick search from the top. So you can limit the scope of what you're seeing here and narrow down, okay, I know my kiddo that I'm looking for is Anderson. So now you can look at this student's information, and then you can pop right into that student's information, pending your privileges within Infinite Campus, and go explore and then take a look. Excuse me. You can head over to their documents and review, special ed caseload documents. And you can look at their documents in here, and you can pop right back to the caseload if you need to while you're in that same area. So when you're looking at a student's documents, the special education caseload is right off to the side. It's under related tools, special education caseload, and then it'll allow you to go look at all of your students that are in here. Let's see what else. Oh, yeah, and it does identify the primary disability because it's a test site. Some of the stuff is not fully fleshed out in there. So it is a handy little tool. And yep, I dive in. I already kind of jumped ahead of myself, didn't I? It lets you see, lets you know what's going on when you're locked, your documents are locked. And if you're in a reeval, if you're the initial, this was from a live site, so the information's been hidden, but it gives you a better idea about what you could be doing within the system just to make your life a little easier to manage that. There is a report too that you can run if you're more of a paper person and you want to print it out, and that's the caseload summary report. So let me grab my excuse me, let me grab a sip of water real quick. All right. Let's get to the caseload summary. And I hope you're using that. I hope that is something. I want to show you. Okay. You can't remember how to get to something. And I told you earlier that the search option up here and tool and caseload it's so helpful. If you know that there's something out there, but you can't remember how to navigate to it, because with the new look, if you drag your feet and you're just not familiar with it, this is a great way for you to find what you're looking for. So caseload summary report allows you to do a printout of your caseload, and you can see what that looks like. The OPI caseload summary report is a little different. It provides the state ID numbers. I believe that's the major difference between the two. You should have access to either of them. So whichever is your preference. So that's student information reports, caseload summary report. But if you can't remember how to get to it from the student information, you just hop over to tools and type in caseload. It'll take you right there. Okay. We'll zip and run along. And that's the output of the report. So that's the advantage, is it looks very similar to that interactive version that I shared with you a little while ago, letting you know the start and end date, what's going on. It doesn't tell you, so that's the major difference, is it's not going to tell you if the IEP is locked on here. I don't think it is. No, it doesn't. Okay. No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell you that. So that's one thing about using the one that's on screen that's super helpful. Take a breather, kind of zipping the things. How are you guys feeling? Any questions right off the top before I move into state reported data? I don't think I've missed anything. You guys are quiet. It's because it's the afternoon. You've already taught all day and now you don't want to talk to anybody. Okay, there we go. Okay. State reported data. So this is my jam. This is what I work with, is your data. So I work with child count, exiting, and post-school survey. Those are the three major data collection pieces that I may or may not work with you on, or definitely somebody in your district that I'm working with. So it's recommended that you review your student data regularly. There are a couple of reports within Infinite Campus. They have ad hoc reports to review unlocked IEPs, unlocked ERs. And if you'd like more information about that, I won't be able to get to it from a test site, so I can't pull it up to show you where it's at. They don't sync that way. But within the reporting, there are ad hoc reports that are available to you. You can just look up the special ed section. And so it is encouraged that you're regularly checking on those pieces. Your state reported data tab in Infinite Campus is going to have, let's see if I can get that pulled up here for you. We'll just take a look-see at it. All right, so while you're hanging out with the student, you're going to hop over to the state reported data section. So the pieces that you're recording on here are going to be your exiting information and your setting of service. So I'm going to quickly just demo this because it sometimes confuses. You have to put the date that you're in here. It's not going to default, so it's the date that you came in. And then you got to decide what you're doing. Are you putting in special ed setting of service, or are you putting in the exit? So we're going to do setting of service, and that's going to allow this drop down to work. So that's what, honestly, that's one of the biggest things that people get caught with, is they don't make a selection here and then they don't know why there's nothing here. So we're going to make a selection just at random, and this is the date that the services begin. Okay. And then you just click save, and you can click save and stay and it'll leave you on the screen, or you can just click save. And then if the setting of services change, you go back in. So this little guy's hanging out in front of you. We're going to click on him, and then we're going to apply an end date for him. And then we're going to click save, and then it'll leave the screen. And that's all you have to do when you're changing information. It works the same way. Working on exiting. So if a student, just the dates are arbitrary, don't get caught in that. And we're going to come down here. So notice I can't click on any of these because I am not doing a setting of service. They're not available to me. And we're going to do drop down. And we're going to say that the student dropped out on the 11th. And then we're going to save. And if you make a mistake, you just click on it, and there's a delete button, and you make it go away. You may or may not have delete privileges. So keep that in mind. Again, all things come down to what your Infinite Campus administrator, there, I said it a little better that time, has deemed are appropriate for rules within your district. So that is your state reported data. They are also important. After you complete that IEP, ER, it's always a good idea to take a peek, unless your district divides that up. There are a couple out there that I've heard that somebody does the state reported data and somebody else does the IEP and ER. So if that's an area you work on, I do encourage you to visit it. Just make sure the information is timely and accurate in there. All right. you're referring to exiting IEP services, right? Not graduating, exiting, or finishing school. Exiting from special education, yes, they are no longer, but you know, a student, I'm going to bring that back over. A student can exit from special ed. Don't forget, that are exit reasons. I put dropped out earlier, but they can graduate too. So they're exiting special ed because they're graduating, they're moving on, they're transitioning. So that can be another option there too. I chose the bummer one, so I should have gone with something better. All right. Make sure you're updating setting of service, end date when they exit. Accurate data is critical. It is. It is so important that your data be accurate. It's definitely it's important that we're reporting federally, you know, the right child count, the right number of exiting students. Those tie into so many pieces that come back to your school and your funding. So it does matter. It's one of those things that just takes small leaps all the way and can impact you in a lot of ways. So taking the time, you know, just a quick second to take a peek at it, it does matter. This accidentally got saved in here. This is from another presentation I'm doing somewhere else. Sorry, so I'm gonna jazz past that. Okay. So it's out of place, but I do want to quickly just talk about the difference in the monitors. I don't think, you know, so if you've ever attached a document to your IEP, there are fundamental differences between when you associate and when you staple. So think about stapling, just like if you have a staple at your desk, you're stapling it to that document. It's a piece of that document and it's going to stay with it. And where associating is, it's just think of it like you've got a bucket and now you've just, or a folder rather, that's a better one. You've got a folder and now you're just throwing everything in there. So now everything's kind of clumped together. So it's either you've got a folder, you're associating all the information together, or you have a document and you're stapling a single piece together. So you can only upload the PDF files. And so you would click on and staple the document and then it would look like this. And I foolishly did not have an image of associating. So sorry about that. But, and then you can click the type of forms and it'll show you all the information on there. So make sure that, you know, when you're getting those signed documents, you're going back and you're uploading them. I don't know if any monitors want to speak on that real quick, if there's something important I'm missing.
Yeah, it's important for the monitoring process as well as just everyday stuff. If you're not already doing so, we strongly encourage you to start uploading particularly signature pages and stapling them to the appropriate document, as Christy just referenced. So please be sure to, if you're not already doing that, to start trying to pull that into your everyday practice, particularly after you have those meetings. But signature pages are the frequent flyer of areas that need to be uploaded into the Infinite Campus process. Where do you get your signature page? You would just print it out, Cassidy, and get your signatures on there that way, and then you would just upload. You'd have to scan that document and then in order to upload that.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
All right, let's pop along, and I am going to jump a bit because somebody else's. Yep. So amendments. Somebody else. They can be tricky. So if you have trouble with them, never delete them. Okay, this is somebody else's slide, but I am just going to say that just don't delete your amendments. If you get started with it and you do something wrong, just be careful because deleting it can cause missyncs with the system. And nope, see, nope. I accidentally grabbed the wrong slide deck. I'm so sorry. These are what I was talking about earlier, ad hoc reports. And if you don't know where those are, you can reach out either to myself or the AIM team. So that consists of Shara, Nicole, and Jennifer Straw. They can help you with running ad hocs because those are available for both special ed and general ed. And that's the end of my show. These are the people that are presenting this week. And these, that includes me. There's me at the bottom and my email address. Email is the best source of contact, best way to contact me. I will also paste them in the chat as soon as I can find the right window. There it is. And so you guys can grab that if you need it. But I'm filling 2 roles right now, but I'm just going to throw my information in the chat. So I do the data collection pieces, and then I'm doing Infinite Campus support for special education at this time. So got 2 hats. And if I can assist you, I'm happy to definitely try. And if I'm not the one, I will find the one for you. So keep my information. Are there any questions? Well, goodness, you're a rowdy bunch. Okay, so you got my email. I'm gonna hop off and I'm gonna let John speak to you fine folks for the remainder of the time. But don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything or if you need more information, or if I didn't cover something that you were hoping that would have been listed. You can let John know that too. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much, Christy. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. There was a lot of information there to have to process and sort through, but if you are one of those people in your schools that you're going to be the one has to enter all of that stuff, or at least get that get those households populated, I thought it would be a good idea for us to have that opportunity to at least review that real quick and get some good information there for you. If you have any questions, as Christy said, you could reach out to either her or myself, and we will get those answers, those questions answered as soon as we're able to, or anybody on my team for that matter. So I appreciate that, Christy. Thank you so much. So what we'll do now is we will jump then into my portion of the presentation, which is going to start talking about, okay, special education, how does it work? How does the whole thing, how does the process even fly for everybody? And if you have, some of you have been down this road many, many times before. Some of you, this is a brand new walk. So it's going to be either a refresher or new material for you, but it's all kind of based upon some of our monitoring, what we look for in our monitoring process, as well as just best practices kinds of suggestions. Okay. And we will do this for approximately the next 45 minutes and then quit. There's an awful lot of, you all know, there's special ed is a big monster, and it just takes an awful lot of time. We can't just cram it all into a 1 hour or a 2 hour gathering like this. So it's got to be spread out. So I'll work on trying to share my screen here. And you should be able to see my PowerPoint
Looks
and
good, John.
extras.
We're seeing kind of PowerPoint, not just the presentation view, but the PowerPoint screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the access log. And what the access log is something that is required to be attached to every IEP hard file for students. We look at this in terms of who has access to this record. You as a case manager, special ed director, perhaps, maybe the building principal, depending on it all depends upon the situation. They don't have to sign every time they get in. They might look at the file, but they do need to sign it at least once a year to be able to just indicate that they have had access to this, and it outlines a little bit of it provides you, as you see, the date, you provide the date, the name, your position, and the purpose for looking at that record. And it just is, this needs to be stapled either on the outside cover of the record, or it can be on the inside cover. Those are two popular places for the location of the access log. And in this PowerPoint, I have, come on, there we go. I give you kind of a breadcrumb trail, if you will,
Hey,
on
John.
how to get to that stuff. Yes, Sarah.
I was just wondering, so is this a working document, or once you have it, is it locked? Because that was kind of the question. Everyone says lock it, but once we create it, can we lock it? And then anybody that goes into that, they don't need to sign in both places. It's just the one. Is that correct?
It needs to be on the hard file.
So once you create it, we can lock
Paper
it, and it
copy,
never has to come.
you print it off, you attach it, and you sign it. The appropriate people sign it.
Yeah, so it does not have to be an Infinite Campus. I wasn't sure if that was, since that was
It
a
does-
running log. Okay,
No, it does not need to be an Infinite Campus. It just needs to be on the hard file.
created there. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You bet. But on this slide, and I'll share this slide with you guys, this PowerPoint with you, but I give kind of the breadcrumb trails here. So the path, student file, special ed documents, how to find the access log is located here for your convenience. Okay. We get into timelines. A big thing in our monitoring process, as well as just the overall special ed process, is the area of timelines and making sure that things fall into the appropriate amount of time is lapsing or not exceeding for the particular situations. So as you can see there, the 60 calendar, these are all calendar days. But the 60 calendar days from the day of an initial evaluation, you have the day that evaluation plan returns to the school district starts that calendar day, or the clock on that calendar day. And so the school district has 60 days to get all of the assessments completed within that time frame. And those are, again, our calendar days. And oftentimes, just from being in the field myself, the evaluation report then is also conducted within that 60 days. But the important thing is that the assessments are completed within those 60 days. The evaluation report could actually be done on day 62, 63, whatever. But often, as I said, oftentimes that is dealt with is done or taken care of before that 60 days expires. And then after that, you have a total of 30 calendar days to get an IEP developed. And so in our monitoring process, we're looking for those kinds of dates and in making sure that that stuff is done in an expedited manner. So if you suspect a student is having a disability or being a child with a disability, and you get the parent's permission to conduct the evaluations, you really have a total of 90 days from start to finish to get that all taken care of. Now, there are exceptions. Things happen that do not allow dates to be honored. And so we would be looking for things, documentation to support that you had a meeting scheduled, something happened, and it's going to be rescheduled for such and such a day. And so it's important to have that documentation somewhere within the student's record and just explaining to somebody on the outside looking in, explaining to them what happened and how come. Then you have the 12-month annual IEP component. As you all know, these need to be done no later than 12 months. They can be done sooner, earlier than that. In fact, it's advisable to not wait until the 52nd week of that IEP to get that IEP done. So try to get those out there as taken care of as you're able to. And a parent can ask for that IEP to occur really at any time. So if a parent were to come to you or a guardian comes to you and says, I'd like to have an IEP meeting, I don't think the IEP is current or a good representation or challenging enough for my child, We don't want to see or hear that somebody at the school says that we still have 3 months left on the IEP. I would go ahead and recommend scheduling that meeting and getting that going, even though it might be 3 months before that 1-year anniversary date. So it does not have, the point here is it does not have to wait until that 51st or 52nd week of the year, but trying to get those taken care of they've got to, by law, be done within that 12-month period. And then the 3-year reevaluation piece, as you all are aware, within the IEP, there is the process of determining whether reevaluation is necessary. We have changed the language on the IEP that says it used to say 3-year reevaluation to determine eligibility, and we changed the language on that to just say 3-year reevaluation. And really what that's for is to capture new data, new baseline stuff for where the student might be, hopefully has progressed to from where they were on the previous evaluation. But IEP teams in Montana have the right to postpone that 3-year reevaluation. It does not have to happen every 3 years, but it does need to be documented that it was talked about. And so it can be postponed for a few years if the team deems that to be appropriate. What we hope does not happen is that a reevaluation occurred, or the initial evaluation was done in kindergarten and the student wasn't reevaluated until their junior or senior year of high school. That's an awful long time for a reevaluation to occur. Okay. And then we get into the meeting notices, where these are the invitations for the attendance at a meeting, and getting that information out to the appropriate people, the team members. It is written, as you can see there, it is handed out or issued prior to the evaluation or an IEP meeting, an ER or an IEP. It has to be given with a reasonable amount of time. Now, the word reasonable is certainly subjective, but in our world, that is 2 weeks in advance, if at all possible, maybe more if necessary. But some of our situations can be pretty complicated, involving an awful lot of people. So the more time the more time you can give prior to actually having that meeting, the better, to get allow everybody opportunity to adjust schedules and to be in attendance at that meeting. The form for the invitation is found in Infinite Campus, and would be populated through those households that Christy talked about earlier, and would be able to, then you would just be checking off and recording on there who would be getting a copy of that invitation, which would include the required members of the team. So for an IEP meeting, you'd have to have a regular ed teacher, obviously yourself as the case manager or a special ed teacher, a school administrator, parent, at the very least, and any related service providers would be required attendees as well, if that's the case for that individual. Pre-filled on the meeting notice form, that's what I mean. In Infinite Campus, the household would build that for you, and you can fill that. There's some check boxes that you can highlight to make for additional areas, and then remember, for those of us who work with high school age students, and it can be even earlier than that, but invite the student when they get to that age where where they have some say, where it would be appropriate for them to be in attendance for that meeting. Be sure to invite them. In our monitoring process, we are looking for a student invite, particularly for transition IEPs, because the students' interests and likes are so important in that process for developing the transition IEP. And then,
hey, John.
Sarah, I've got an awful lot of material.
Oh,
can we
well, I was
talk
just wondering, can you have a dual role in the meeting? Can you be an admin and a SPED teacher, or do they have to be separate?
If at all possible, make them separate. Other invitees would be outside agencies. So like maybe Voc Rehab, maybe DPHHS, those types of agencies, you would include those in on that invitation. That's what we would be looking for in the monitoring process. So if you, let's say you assigned Voc Rehab some type of a role within that IEP, that transition IEP, Voc Rehab it needs to have a seat at the table, obviously, and be in attendance at that meeting. So we would hope that they would be invited through, or at least recorded as being invited in that invitation notice or the meeting notice. We then have, again, I'm giving you the breadcrumbs to try to find how do you find that in Infinite Campus. And this is an old copy of the form with our former superintendent's logo on there. But you get the idea that you can find that or how to get to that. We then get into prior written notice, and this is going to be talked about a few different times today or during these next couple of nights. But a prior written notice is something that is primarily there to record things that were talked about and during the meeting and to capture those. Those of us at old school, we used to do that in the notes section of the IEP, but the PWN is the most relevant and appropriate place to capture that stuff. As you can see on the slide here, it is intended to capture information, and given it is stuff that is to be, the word prior in prior written notice means stuff that is done before the actual implementation of the IEP. So until you get an approval on an IEP, you really cannot implement that until you receive that signature from the parent, thereby approving that IEP. And we'll talk about that stuff later on. But what we've seen an awful lot of in legal situations as they get into due process and whatnot, attorneys look at the prior written notice pretty quickly through that process. And so you want to be sure to try to capture the information as needed within that. Now, those of you who might have attended the prior written notice during the Summer Institute in Bozeman this past June, there really isn't a right or wrong way to write. What goes in what box is a frequent question, and there really is. It helps to just try to be sure that those subtle conversations are captured within the prior written notice. So let's say, for instance, the parent is requesting a student be on a shortened schedule. The school disagrees. The dialogue and the justification for both positions should probably be captured in there, because then that way the parent is able to feel as though their concerns or opinions are being captured and properly addressed. Procedural safeguards are part of the prior written notice. And you'll notice, those of you who have done that done those in the prior written notices in the past, there is a procedural safeguards paragraph at the very bottom that says they have received that. And so the procedural safeguards indicates it's terribly dry reading, a whole lot of legalese, but the procedural safeguards primarily just gives the parents and the adult student their rights and their opportunities to have mediation or due process if at all necessary. So you can see that highly recommend that you provide the procedural safeguards it has to be at least once a year, but I would just get in the habit of at least offering it at every meeting that you have with that parent. So you might meet with the parent 5 times in a year, offer it to them 5 times. They don't have to take it, but you've at least offered it to them. Highly recommended as a best practice. So here's some times where the procedural safeguards ought to be provided or offered to the parent. Procedural safeguards have been updated. I believe it should say August 2024 on the cover of it. And that would be the most current one. If you don't have, if that's not the one that you have to hand out, I would encourage you to do that, because it includes the Montana Empowerment Center language, or the parent I can't think of the initials for it, but, and Jean, you were on here, Heidi as well. They are both from our Montana Empowerment Center, and we have a great relationship with them. But the new form has their contact for the Montana Empowerment Center on that, so you need to make sure you have that. I'd print off a few copies, have them there, and just set them in the corner and have them ready for any meetings, parent-teacher conferences, whatever you might have that comes up. They are currently available in Spanish, and we are working on trying to get other interpretations of those procedural safeguards in different languages addressed. And stay tuned. We'll have those posted when we get those ready. So what does the word prior in prior written notice mean? Prior obviously means prior to the implementation of the IEP, or any changes that might be made to the documents. As I mentioned earlier, the written of prior written notice is a full description in writing. So it doesn't need to, you don't want to insinuate. You want to make sure that you capture those things and get those down in writing, so the parent knows exactly what they're officially signing, because the IEP is a legal document between the school district and the parent that says, we are going to do these things for your son or daughter, and this is how we are going to be delivering them in order to get them an appropriate education based upon their needs. And then the notice is intended to be, obviously, as you can see, to notify the parent of what the school plans to do. And so it all kind of ties in together with each section. Each is connected and related. How to use or how to document the prior written notice. One, you want to use the editor in the we've added the prior written notice to both the IEP and the evaluation report, and then we have the standalone. So it's in there, it's built in, it's intentional that is there, because otherwise it'd be one more thing that, oops, we might have forgotten about. So we've included that, attached that, or built that into the IEP and evaluation report process. And here's an example of what to do with what within the evaluation report for the prior written notice. And I won't get into all of that. You can see that on your own, but you'll see the initiation or change in the evaluation of the student, or initiation or change in the identification of the student. You would just check which is appropriate. In the monitoring process, we don't necessarily dig that deep into the prior written notice, but we want to be sure that they are not left blank, left with X's or periods or something to occupy the boxes, that they need to be completed in their entirety. And if they are not, then it is a finding on our monitoring, on the part of my monitors. So you can see a little bit of some guidance there for you moving forward when in dealing with an evaluation report, PWN. And then the next slide is talking about the evaluation, the IEP PWN, and those two boxes are different. You're talking about initiation or change in the educational placement of the student, or initiation and change in the provision of FAPE for the student. And you can see there how those are defined for everyday use. The 7 components of the PWN. One, you're having to provide the description of the action proposed or refused by the district. An example of that might be, we've come together today. The student has met all the goals in their IEP, their previous IEP or outgoing IEP. And we are coming together to write a new one today because of that success. An explanation of why the district proposes or refuse to take the actions. You would, for that situation, you could put, excuse me, you could put that the student would be, I just got to get my cheat sheet up here a little bit, sorry. In my notes there, it says explanation of why the agency proposes. Examples would be the student's assessment and criteria checklist indicate they qualify for a particular area. And then you would list those areas. In the prior written notice, as a side note, you want to stay away from acronyms, because this document might be reviewed by a parent who later on needs to, well, now what in the world does PWN stand for? And even some legal people might look at this down the road. Hope not, but it's possible. And so you want to just spell things out as best you can in that prior written notice. Description of each evaluation procedure, number 3 there, or the third one. You're talking about spelling out the types of assessments, why they were used, maybe the information that you hope to gain from those assessments. That type of a thing would be spelled out within that section. But again, there's no right or wrong answer. With the exception of this third one, it's pretty self-explanatory what should go in there. A description of other options considered or reasons why those were rejected. There the parent might make a request, the school might make a request, and the parent says, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that with my child. And so you just have to capture that and the justification behind those positions. And then really the last one, the description of other relevant factors. Anything else that might fit. Team talked about the potential of bringing occupational therapy into the situation for the student and agreed that it is not necessary. Things like that. You might also even capture who attended and how they attend that meeting in this bubble. So things like the parent attended over virtually or over the phone. And then even you could record in this area how the parent is going to get a copy of that IEP. They're choosing to sign it today. They have the right to take it home to review. But if they choose to sign it, I would write in there the parent chose to sign it today and thereby foregoing the right to take home for review and to return to the school at a later time. And then the final 2 bubbles there, contacts for parents to get help, and the statement of procedural safeguards. Those we've built into that prior written notice. It's down there on the bottom of the actual document. Timeline for PWN. Again, it needs to be done prior to the actual implementation of the IEP. So until you get the prior written notice written and approved by the parent, which would be approved through that approval signature, right? The IEP really should not be implemented. So again, go back to our timelines piece that I mentioned earlier. If you wait until that week 52 to do your IEP, the parent takes the IEP home to review, and they're also reviewing that prior written notice, and then they bring that back to you 10 days later. You really should not legally be implementing that IEP until that stuff comes back to you with a signature. So reasonable would be, I would say, a week at the very most, maybe 10 days for that that document to come back to you as a school district, or with the signature on the IEP, thereby approving the contents. The reason for that is they need to have a reasonable amount of time to consider what was talked about. Sometimes, and we've been, I don't know about you, but I've been in meetings where the parents have that kind of a deer in the headlights sort of a look, and are just like, yeah, whatever. And they really don't have a complete or thorough understanding of what it is they're signing or what is being talked about. And so it's a good idea to give them time to have that opportunity to process. And then OPI does not have a definitive timeline there, but just good practice to be 5 to 10 days to get that stuff back to you as a school district. Unfortunately, that means you as a case manager have to kind of hound the parent a little bit with reminders, and please get that to us. It's important. Your son's IEP will not be implemented, or your child's IEP will not be implemented until we receive that signature from you approving things. Prior written notice tips. If you've ever been in an IEP meeting or conducted one, you are busy. If you're the host, you are busy trying to keep all these glass balls in the air, and you're trying to keep everything moving along as best you can. So it's a good idea not to have the case manager be the person who's actually having to write the IEP, keep the going along, the meeting moving along, and recording the conversations for the prior written notice. If you have the pleasure of having a colleague to capture that stuff, it's highly recommended. Maybe a school administrator might be able to do that for you. But consider having an additional person there to be that recorder for the prior written notice, if you can. I know in some cases it's unavoidable. It is what it is. But if you have that opportunity, encourage you to try to utilize that. You want to use that a blank form. So print off the prior written notice as a blank to be able to write that stuff down, and get that shuffled around as needed. And then you can type that in at a later, hopefully almost immediately upon the conclusion of your meeting. Consider using the prior written notice as a tool for bringing the meeting to a positive close. We've been in those meetings where they are contentious and potentially ugly. Use it as a piece to celebrate. We're making some progress. Things are moving along well. Your son or daughter is achieving some great things. That kind of stuff, that kind of information helps draw those contentious meetings into a positive light or in a good closing time. And then, as I said earlier, don't use acronyms if you can help that, or abbreviations. Spell it out so then that way the parent doesn't have to sit back and wonder when they look at that the next day, what does this mean? What does Wyatt stand for? Spell it out. What does the Woodcock-Johnson, what is it all? What is the intention of that? That is the academic assessment and so on. You want to get those kinds of things recorded in there. So then that way the parent there's no fuzzy spots there for the parent to try to interpret or figure out later on. Again, here's the cheat sheet for how do you get to that stuff and working your way through the prior written notice in Infinite Campus. All right. We are at the referral process, and at 5:30, I wanted to take this to about 5:45 if we could. And so we'll just keep rolling along if that's okay with everybody. If you have to go, I understand, and we will, like I said, we'll be trying to send this PowerPoint to you as we at the conclusion of all of this stuff, and then we'll pick up where we left off tonight. We'll pick up where we leave off for next Thursday. So in the referral process, the purpose, definition, and the purpose of a referral. Here we're talking about the referral actually being the starting point for you suspect the child as being a child with a disability. A school district has the obligation to start that process sooner than later. You cannot postpone the referral process and allow RTI-like practices or MTSS practices to delay that. So if you know that the student is indeed in need of something more, strongly encouraged school districts to start that process sooner than later. The referral establishes or describes the concern that the student might be having. A school employee can complete that, maybe with the cooperation of the parent, to try to get that that information pulled together. And oh, by the way, our referral form has changed slightly. Hopefully that will be available up and running here. It might already be. But we have taken the grid off of the back of the referral form that used to be there, and it is now more of a narrative piece where we're asking for you to the referral to have things kind of spelled out, what happened, how come, what were the results of the interventions, and so on. So we're trying to capture all of that stuff in a hopefully a more user-friendly sort of a manner. And the information within the evaluation, within the referral form helps the evaluation team in determining what types of assessments, assuming it goes further than that, it helps them in determining what types of assessments to be looking at in the evaluation plan. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. The requirements of a referral, it has to have the statement for reasons. Why is the referral occurring? Even with teacher interventions, tried with maybe a variety of activities that might be intended to help the student achieve success, but still did not. That's what we got to capture that in that referral to describe what that stuff all looked like or what was tried and the results of that. You want to document the interventions used and tried for those general ed situations or settings and the results of those interventions. And then we're looking for, in our monitoring process, we're looking for the actual signature of the person making the referral. It's not a binding signature. It's nothing like that. It is just a signature that then says that this was done by a competent person and therefore provides justification for it moving forward. The reason, so we'll talk a little bit about each area there. The reason is you got to give specific information or details about what was the difficulties the student might be having. The level of difficulty may be a couple of years behind their peers based upon the statewide assessment that we've gone through here this past year. You might have some good data there that might support the referral being made. What they're not able to do in the general ed classroom, they just can't keep up with their peers for whatever reason. They might be multiple years behind their peers in a particular subject area. And then to include any kinds of interventions and maybe even within that, the duration of those interventions. What did you try? How long did you try it? A one-day intervention is not going to give you very accurate data. But a week-long series of interventions might give you far more pertinent information that you could use or that can be used in helping determine eligibility or even justification for that referral moving forward. The signature part, as I mentioned, we've got to have that. A representative of the school should be the one to fill out that referral. A parent can. If they do, just let's get their signature on there. And then that typically is that person who makes that request for the referral form as well. So the classroom teacher or maybe a para or whomever, a school employee, we would just want to get those signatures on there if we can. In the event that you have a missing referral, Currently, the law states that the contents of a student record includes or incorporates a referral form. Frequently, when a student transfers from one school district to another, the referral form doesn't come with them unless it's uploaded into Infinite Campus. So sometimes the need to reconstruct a referral comes into play. And that's where we have a missing referral. And so you can see the arrow there. It says, first off, print off a blank referral form and complete the demographics, sign and date it. You don't know what interventions might have been tried, but Johnny did show up with an IEP. You just don't have the referral. You don't have any idea what interventions were tried or attempted prior to Johnny's coming to your doorstep. So want to make sure that you have at least that kind of information in there. And then we ask that you write across the top, the word reconstructed at the top of the referral form. Then that way we can say that a referral is indeed in every student's record. It seems like maybe a little bit of, maybe not necessary all that much to actually have to do, but that is what we are looking for in our monitoring process. If I was on site, boots on the ground, doing a monitor of your records, and I came across a record that did not have a referral in it, I would probably have a stack of blank referral forms sitting right there beside me, and getting that completed on your behalf as best as I could to get that to get a reconstructed plugged in there, and then have a school official sign that referral form. And then the breadcrumb trails for how to build that referral form is here in Infinite Campus. Evaluation plans. So you've done the referral, it's gone forward, and now we're having a conversation about is an evaluation even necessary, or it has been determined that evaluation is necessary. The evaluation plan is a legal document that whatever is checked off on that document, a school district is obligated to provide assessments for. So you don't want to hand out cautionary note. You don't want to just hand out evaluation plans like candy. You want to be sure to control that a little bit and have some meaningful conversations, probably with the parent, the person, and or the person making the referral, to determine what appropriate areas would be, what areas of assessment would be appropriate for that situation. If you just gave a blank evaluation plan to a parent, ask them to fill it out and sign it, it's quite possible that they would check off every box. And then that now puts you as a school district on notice for conducting assessments in every one of those areas. And they may not be pertinent or appropriate for that situation. So it's a good idea. I know some school districts where the school counselor has a conversation with the parent, or not counselor, I'm sorry, but school psych might have a conversation with the parent to talk about what areas might be appropriate and to identify those, and then request the parent signature upon having that discussion. You don't want to you want to try to complete that in native language of the student. You want to use as simple terms as you can. Try to stay away from special ed lingo, and even the potential of talking above your parents about that. So try to keep that as simple as possible, including the abbreviations and acronyms, staying away from those as well. The evaluation plan must include these 5 areas: specific reason, the areas checked for assessment, any outside training or testing if appropriate. So let's say the parent has a doctor's note about Johnny having attention deficit disorder, and which might coincide with a suspected learning disability. you're bringing that to the table for the student. So you would check other there for outside additional testing, and you would write in there doctor's report or what would be whatever that wherever the source of that might be. Upon that, actually 4 and 5 should be flipped because the date returned is when the 60-day timeline starts. So when the parent brings that document signed and dated back to the school district, that's when that 60-day timeline calendar days starts. So you want to be sure that as we're coming into long vacation periods, like maybe Christmas or the winter break, summertime, you want to be sure the 60 days still applies. So you want to be aware of that when you get that process started, or when that is initiated. And then you should have a process where that is either stamped or a school official then records the date that that document comes back to you, because that's what we are looking for in the monitoring process on the date of return for that evaluation plan. And then here are the steps, again, the breadcrumbs for all of that, how to get to that within Infinite Campus. And I think I'm going to stop there. And allow opportunity for any questions that there might be. We will knock off for the evening. We're going to come back together again. Hopefully you can join us next Thursday, the 11th at 4 o'clock, same kind of a time frame. And we'll resume here on the evaluation reports. So I thank you. If you've got to go, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, especially considering it's the end of the day, and we're still trying to get conditioned for the start of the school year. So I appreciate the time. Thank you. I'll hang around for questions if necessary.
And I also threw in the chat the evaluation. You must complete the evaluation for renewal units, and then there are separate Zooms for the next meetings. I tried to send anyone on today's meeting the Zoom links for the next. I'm working on forwarding the next 2 Zoom links, just so you're not completely dependent on the Eventbrite registration. If any of you had trouble with that, looked like they were the most registered for tonight, and after that it kind of dropped off. So I'll just forward the invite and Zoom links for the next 2 meetings to folks on the call. If you don't receive that, I'll put my email in the chat so you can reach out to make sure you have the information to attend on to next Thursday afternoon as well.
Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate you. Should we stop recording?
John, there's a couple questions in the chat. Do you want to answer those, or do you want us to comment?
Oh, I haven't even been looking at that. Thank you, Crystal. Let's see here.
Crystal, do you want to you could ask or read the ones you're thinking of to John? That might
East
help for the
Co-op.
recording.
Yeah.
At the bottom, John, they're just asking the physical box. There's a lot of items when we talk about hearing, vision, fine motor, and gross motor. They want to know if it needs just to be circled, or would you rather use the other box?
So we're talking about the evaluation plan.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And I think I believe we check off the physical box and the appropriate assessments would be noted there.
Circled, yes. I noted in there, yeah.
Yep. Should hearing and vision be checked only if there is a concern? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Only if there's a concern there, should that be checked. I wouldn't just do it for the sake of doing it. If you suspect there's something there, you are obligated to pursue that.
I think that's all of them I saw, John. I
all the
answered a couple.
questions? Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions at all, just to talk about? Okay. All right, thank you so much again. I